Okay. We're going to talk about cattle. But first, a lot of guys are doing the Hangouts, the Google Hangouts, and it's just typically not at the time that I can be there. So I don't want anyone to think I'm blowing them off or anything. I want to participate. I think you guys are probably having a lot of fun. But just at the time they're doing them, I'm typically at work, and I just can't pull that off while I'm at work. Too many people there and everything. But I will, as I go into September, my hours will change. I'll have more time where I can do some of the Google Hangouts because I want to participate in that. I want to check out TR Prepper's a black man. What's it? A redneck, a black man, and a transgender walk into a bar. That just sounds like it's too much fun. But that's TR Preppers. I've got some cows out there currently that didn't have any babies. They never conceived. They were open. Okay, and I don't preg check like a lot of guys do. I don't bring the vet out and do all that. But basically, I'm in the longest winter I've ever had because we've never really had grass this year, so I just keep feeding my winter rations, which is very costly, and I've had to do that all summer. So now I have to shrink. I've talked about this before. We're culling the herd down. We're shrinking the herd down to our base group. We're getting to what we call our SHTF herd or our drought herd, our basic minimum of our best animals, and then from this we can rebuild again. Okay. What I had is I had a couple of heifers that I assumed were pregnant because they look pretty good. They look big. And I knew that I have a journal. You write everything. Every time a calf is born, you write down the date, what it looked like, male, female, who's the mother, who was the father. And you want their birth dates on here. Every time you put the bull into the herd, you write the date down. Every time you take a bull out of the herd, you write the date down. Okay, so I knew I pulled the bull out of the herd on November 9th, okay, of last year. And that means 9 months later, from November 9th, 9 months later, which I think is July 9th, that was the only time calves could have been born. It's actually the front of that, but just for the sake of argument, there's that 9 month span where calves can be born. After July 9th, there's too much time. If they didn't have their calves yet, they're not going to. They're open. And I usually give them like a month because they could go a little bit long. Well, I had about three cows, 2 heifers and a cow that did not have any babies, and so we call them open. They missed, and that's not good. I'll sell them. All right, but I bring this up because if you're ever thinking about getting into livestock, and it could be anything, it could be sheep, goats, cattle, whatever. You'll get certain animals that have a certain breeding. Some are early breeders and some are late breeders. Okay. Typically, in my experience, the main beef cattle, which is Black Angus, Red Angus, Charolais, Hereford, they're early breeders. 16 months, you can get them knocked up. They could drop a calf on their first birthday if you want to push them that hard. I like to take my heifers to 2 years, then breed them, get them bred. They're developed in my mind then, if I have any control over it. I've had cattle that have been Brahma influenced. Okay, they have some a Brahma bull in their bloodline, and I'll show you a picture of a Brahma bull. Okay, that would be a Brahma bull. That's similar to the cattle that you see, the bulls you see in these PBR, these bucking bulls, performance cattle. They've got some Brahma in their bloodline. Okay, now those PBR bulls, that's not beef cattle. Those are performance cattle. They are bred specifically for that job. Very expensive. Really high-tech breeding goes into those. It's not some fluky little thing. There's a lot of money behind those bulls. They're very expensive animals, and a lot of breeding, a lot of technology goes into that. A lot of experience. But those are Brahma influence. They got some Brahma in those animals. I had my original herd with some limousine cows and a Brangus bull. Okay, a Brangus bull is a Brahma bred with an Angus cow, and you get a Brangus bull. A little more to it than that, but you get the idea. It's Brahma and Angus. So they were Brahma influenced. All the heifers I got from that bull were late breeders, which at the time I didn't mind because it was, 6 months here, 6 months there. It didn't really matter. I was growing the herd. But what you ended up with is all these cows, these daughters that come from this bull, they're late breeders. It takes them an extra 6 months or a year to conceive. And so you're pushing off the date where they actually pay you. They've got to get bred. It takes 9 months. They got to drop a calf. It takes another 8, 9, 10 months to make any money off that calf. So you got like a 2-year window before you get paid from conception. So if at the time it didn't bother me so much, but I can't afford that now. I can't afford an animal that's going to be a late bloomer. And if I'm going to build my herd, I don't want to build it of a bunch of cows that are late bloomers because their children will be the same thing. I don't want late breeders. Okay. Not mean to sound crude, but we're trying to create a bunch of horny sluts. They want to get up, get it on, get bred, drop those calves. The sooner you get those girls bred and they have a successful calf that they can take the weaning, the sooner you get paid. Okay? And what you'll find is there are breeds that have that characteristic, just like there are breeds that don't. You know, typically, like I said, the Brahma breeds typically are late breeders. Now, if you have, I don't want to knock the Brahma breeds like Brangus and such, or Braford, or there's several of them. There are times because of your environment where you need a Brahma-influenced animal. Let's say you're in the desert, or you're in a drought climate, or you have a high an environment that deals with a lot of parasites, worms, or flies, that kind of thing. Difficult environments, Brahma-influenced cattle do better. Heat, they don't do well in cold, but extreme heat, not necessarily the best water availability, they can endure it. Whereas your top-notch Black Angus can't handle that. They need to be, in my opinion, Black Angus needs to be pampered. Okay, Herefords I think are far more durable than Angus, but different video. So if you have a fairly decent environment, Angus is going to do well. But if you have a pretty lean environment, the Brahma influenced animals is going to do better. Now, I do not have a tough environment here, but I do not want, my environment fits more of the Angus kind of animal. So I want an animal that's going to be an early breeder. That's going to be important to me. Now, because I typically keep my own heifers, build my own herd from my herd mothers from my actual herd. I don't go out and buy other cattle and bring them in. I do not want to keep anyone that's a late breeder because her children are going to be late breeders. And you just keep pushing your revenue further, your payday is getting pushed further away. So it's the two heifers that I have here, one of them's got a little bit of the Brahma influence because I have a mother around that's Brahma influence cow. I've always kept her. She's one of my first. But I will no longer keep any of her daughters because now it's proven to me that her daughters are just like her. Now, she's always done well once she got into the system and started getting bred, but I will not build my herd on her children anymore because they're going to be slow breeders. So these will go, they'll get into the trailer and go to town. But I don't want that in my base group. I want all early fast breeders. But if you have that, something like that, whether it's, like I said, whether it's goats or sheep or something like that, there are breeds that it's a characteristic. You may need the hardiness of a certain breed, but sometimes you have to make sure that type of a hardiness, that characteristic you're looking for, you're giving up something else, and it might be early breeding. Okay, so there's give and take. And then that early breeder may not be able to handle or withstand a difficult climate or environment. So it's just something I kind of wanted to share, something you kind of have to deal with when you get into breeding these things. I have some cows out there that I need to take some pictures of them before, matter of fact, before the winter sets in, I'll take some pictures of them. You'd look at these cattle and you'd probably call the SPCA on me and say, dude, you got to do something with these cows because they look like crap. They're skinny and beat down, this and that. And they are my best cows. I mean, they drop calves every year. They've been at it the longest. You could sit there and I'll show you one cow that's, man, she ain't much to look at. But 3 years in a row, she has dropped the best looking calves that I've ever had. She walks funny. She's got bad conformation. She's got a problem with one eye. She was sick when she was young. All this, just bad news cow. Never missed, always had great looking calves. So when you have these good looking ones that I'm getting ready to take to sell, some say, well, gee, why are you selling those? Slow breeders. They didn't get it done. So it doesn't matter what they look like. Yeah, you want certain aspects. But if they can do the basic thing like get get themselves knocked up, they can't hang around. Whereas the ugly ones that I've got out here, no problem. Now some people say, well, you need to take those slow breeders, and if you give them a crutch, you build them up a little bit, pour more feed to them, put them in not such a tough environment. And a lot of guys get in trouble doing this. They'll take these ones that are better looking, or maybe they paid more for them, and they've got to make them work. So they start grain feeding them, start pampering them, and get everything really right. Start paying these animals to do something that should be natural, so they'll conceive and get the job done quicker. Well, you shouldn't have to do that. See, and that's I chased things like that when I got started. You start paying these animals to do what they should be doing for you for free, and you don't want to get into that pinch. Well, I've got some ornery skin, they're not ornery, but I got some skinny, bad-looking cows out there that get it done every year, and not because I gave them any extras. They're just good working girls, whereas the other ones turn out to be freeloaders. So, just wanted to share that. If you get any kind of livestock thing, any kind of breeding, certain groups are your workers and certain ones are going to be your freeloaders, and you can know that ahead of time because most of it's common knowledge. You know, certain breeds, certain types of animals will have the characteristics you're looking for. Like I said, if you're not in a very hardy environment, you may not need a Brahma. You want them early breeders. Whereas in a hardy environment, you're going to trade that characteristic for the endurance and the ability of that animal to survive in a tough climate. And it's just a characteristic that you want to be aware of. Anyhow, hopefully that made some sense for some of you that want to get into cattle. Love you.